This is Soul Signal, where the soul comes to rest. My name is Patrice. In a moment, a story will begin. You don't need to do anything with it. You don't need to remember it or carry it or learn from it. Only let it move through you, the way water moves through open hands. Somewhere underneath the second guessing, your knowing is still there. It never left. Tonight, we rest our way back to it. Before the island, the breath. Place both hands on your belly, divine soul. Feel the warmth there. That warmth is yours. It has always been yours. No one gave it to you. No one can take it back. Let your shoulders fall. The day is finished. Whatever you were solving, whatever you were carrying, whatever you were trying to figure out before you could finally rest, it will still be there in the morning. Tonight is not for figuring out. Tonight is for something older than solving. We breathe in 3 rounds. Slow. No effort required. Round 1. Inhale through your nose for 4 counts. Like drawing breath from deep, warm stone. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 7. Let it settle into all the uncertain places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through soft lips for 8. Let the calculation go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Round 2. Inhale for 4. Gathering yourself back from everywhere the day sent you. Hold for 7. Everything finding its level, the way water finds its level in stone. Exhale for 8. Releasing what was never yours to carry tonight. Round 3. Inhale for 4. The breath knows the way. Hold for 7. Trust the pause. Exhale for 8. Let the dark be safe. Now let your breathing return to its own rhythm. No count, no control. Just the ancient conversation between you and air. Feel the bed beneath you, solid as island stone. The pillow receiving the weight of your head. The blanket settling. Your jaw can release now. Your throat can soften. Your shoulders. They have been holding the sky all day. They can put it down. Your hips wide and heavy. Your hands open. Your feet resting at the edge of everything. In the distance, you hear it. Salt wind, moving through an open corridor. Stone underfoot, warm from a sun that has long set, still giving what it received, still holding the heat long after the light was gone. This is what love does. Stays warm in the dark, keeps what it was given. Your nervous system knows this sound, not from memory, from before memory. The sound of being held by something that does not require your performance to keep standing. If it feels right, let these words move through you the way thread moves through open hands. Not gripped, just held. Sacred knowing. Ancient thread. Ground beneath the dark. Remind me tonight that I have always known more than I trusted. Call back the part of me that went quiet when the doubt got loud. Return to me the knowledge my body carries when my mind is running scared. Where I have second-guessed, restore my knowing. Where I have deferred, restore my discernment. Where I have abandoned myself in the deciding, be the thread that leads me back. Tonight, let me rest inside the truth that has always been mine. Not borrowed, not earned, mine. And so it is. And so it holds. The island had been keeping watch for her. Not dramatically, the way sacred places keep watch. Quietly, without marking the hours, without needing her to arrive on time. The stone of the palace corridor was warm beneath her hand, warm from a sun that had long since set, still holding the heat, still giving what it had received. The way a body holds the warmth of someone it loves long after they have left the room. Ariadne pressed her palm flat against it. Let it hold her back. She had been standing here a long time. Long enough for the moon to move. Long enough for the palace to go from lit to dark. Room by room. Until only the corridor held her. Long enough for the servants to stop moving through the back passages. Long enough for the whole enormous house to become just this. One woman, one warm wall, one question she had been circling since before the sun went down. She was not standing here because she didn't know what to do. She was standing here because she did know, and knowing, in the way she knew, in the body before the argument, in the quiet, clear certainty that arrives before the reasons to doubt it, was a terrifying thing to trust. You know this feeling, don't you? Not the dramatic version, the quiet, daily version. The moment when you know something before you can defend it, before you can build a case for it. When the knowing arrives clean and whole. And then the second guessing comes like weather. And within the hour, you are no longer sure of anything. That erosion, that particular tiredness that comes not from the hard thing, but from arguing with yourself about the hard thing. From the effort of dismantling your own certainty before anyone else has the chance to. Ariadne knew that tiredness well. She had been raised in a palace built on secrets. A family that had learned long ago to make the official story sound nothing like the true one. She had spent her childhood learning to tell them apart, which sounds like a skill, and it was, but it cost something. It cost her the easy relationship with her own certainty. Because when you grow up in a house where the story keeps changing, where what is true today becomes unspeakable tomorrow, you stop trusting the first thing that arrives. You start checking. You start asking, is this real? Or is this what I want to be real? Is this what I know? Or is this what I feel? Is this wisdom? Or is this just want? And after enough years of that, you stop being able to hear the difference. The silence in the palace at this hour was different from the day's silence. The day had its own busy quiet. The quiet of things being carefully not said. Of footsteps moving past certain doors. Of eyes that looked and then looked away. That was the silence of performance, of maintenance. This silence was older. The corridor at night had nothing to maintain. The torches had burned low and gone out, one after another, until only the moonlight came through the high arched window at the corridor's far end. A long, pale rectangle on the stone floor, moving almost imperceptibly as the moon made its slow passage. Ariadne had watched that light move the way you watch something when you are not ready to look at the thing you came to see. The air smelled of salt. It always smelled of salt here. The sea was on 3 sides of the island, and the 4th side was more sea, just further away. And the wind carried everything the water knew straight into the stone corridors of the palace and left it there. She had grown up breathing salt, had stopped noticing it years ago. But tonight it was present, specific. The smell of something wide and old and indifferent to opinion. The sea did not require her to be certain. The sea was simply doing what it had always done, and would keep doing, regardless of what she decided. There was something restful in that. The thread was in her hands before she understood what it was for. She had wound it herself, in the dark hours, in the quiet of her own room, when the palace slept and only the salt wind was awake, moving through the open window the way grace moves, without announcing itself, without asking permission. She had begun winding without a plan, without knowing what distance she was measuring for, or what weight the thread would need to bear, or whether the thing she was hoping for was even possible. Her hands had simply begun, and she had let them. She wound it until her hands stopped, not because she counted the length, not because she calculated the distance. Her hands simply stopped the way hands stop when the thing is finished. That is how the real knowing works. Not announced, not argued into existence, just already in motion. The hands completing what the heart already decided. She looked at the thread now, wound around her wrist, warm from her skin, lighter than she expected, more present than she expected. The kind of thing that looks like nothing from the outside and feels like everything from within. Here was the question she had been standing at the wall asking herself for the past hour. Do I trust what I know? Feel that question settle into your own chest tonight. Not as philosophy, as something that lives in the body, that arrives before the arguments do, that gets quieter the longer the doubt speaks. How many decisions are you carrying right now that you already know the answer to and are still arguing with yourself about? Because the knowing arrived before the proof. How many times in the last year has the first thing proven true, and you spent the weeks between talking yourself out of it? This is not a character flaw, divine soul. This is what happens to women who have been told in one way or another that what they know is not sufficient evidence, that knowing requires external approval before it qualifies as real, that the quiet certainty arriving in the body before dawn is somehow less trustworthy than the conclusions reached in rooms with witnesses and whiteboards and official language. As if the body has not been keeping record all along. As if the hands that stopped winding when the thread was the right length did not know exactly what they were doing. Ariadne had been told that her whole life. Tonight she was deciding whether to believe it anymore. The moon had moved another fraction across the high window. The pale rectangle on the floor was almost at the far wall now. She watched it touch the stone, steady and unhurried. The moon making its arc without consulting anyone, without requiring permission to complete what it had started. She thought, that is what I am trying to learn. Not boldness, not certainty, just completing what I have started without stopping to ask whether I am allowed. High in the stone archway above the corridor, an owl sat. It had been there the whole time. She had not noticed it until now. It was not watching the palace, or the moon, or the dark beyond the corridor's end. It was watching her. the way the oldest things watch, without judgment, without urgency, without needing her to do anything differently. Just, I see you. I have been here the whole time. I have watched you argue with what you know, and I am still here. She gave him the thread at the entrance, not with ceremony, not with speech. She pressed it into his hand in the dark, showed him how to tie it to the doorpost, told him to keep tension on it, enough to feel the direction back, not so much it would break. He asked her how she knew it would be long enough. She didn't answer, because the honest answer was, I don't. I wound it until it felt finished. That is all I know. That was the kind of knowledge she was working with. Not calculation, not guarantee, just the hands stopping when the thing was done, and trusting that meant something. He went in. She stayed at the entrance, the other end of the thread held between two fingers, light as silk, present as a heartbeat. This is the part of the story no one tells. Not the hero moving through the corridors, not the darkness waiting at the center, but this. The woman at the entrance, holding the thread, in the middle of the night, alone. Not performing calm, actually having to find it, because the thread could break. The labyrinth was old, and old things are not always reliable. The thread might not be long enough. She had wound it until it felt finished, and feeling finished and being sufficient are two different things, and she knew that. She knew all the ways this could fail, but she had wound the thread anyway. The minutes passed the way minutes pass when there is nothing to do but hold. Slowly, without mercy. Each one requiring her to make the same decision she had already made. To keep holding. To not put it down. To not decide in the silence that the silence meant something had gone wrong. This is what no one tells you about trust. It is not a single decision. It is the same decision, made again and again, in every quiet minute that does not bring confirmation. You decide to trust, and then the doubt comes, and you decide again, and the doubt comes again, and you decide again. Not with increasing confidence, sometimes with decreasing confidence, sometimes with nothing left except the original decision and the stubborn refusal to unmake it in the dark. That is not weakness. That is the whole of it. That is what holding actually requires. Ariadne shifted her weight from one foot to the other. The stone was cold now. The warmth it had held all day had finally given what it had. Even stone has limits. Even the most ancient warmth eventually releases what it was keeping. She pressed her free hand against the wall anyway, out of habit, out of the same instinct that makes you reach for something solid when you are not sure of your footing. The wall received her hand. Cool now, but still present. Still there. Still holding up the corridor. Still holding up the archway above. Still holding up everything that had been built on it for centuries. Cool is not the same as gone. She remembered that. There is a kind of courage that doesn't look like courage from the outside. It doesn't look like anything. It looks like a woman standing still in the dark, holding something thin, waiting. The courage is not in the standing. The courage is in not putting down the thread, in not deciding, while she waited in the long, silent minutes, that she had made a mistake, that the knowing she had trusted was false, that the hands that wound the thread did not know what they were doing. She stood there with all of that, the doubt arriving in waves, the way doubt does when there is nothing to do but hold. And she held. Divine Soul, feel your own hands right now. They are resting, open, soft. But in whatever way you are holding something tonight, a decision that hasn't been made yet, a situation that has no clear answer, a knowing that keeps arriving and keeps being argued away. Feel the weight of that. Not to fix it, not to resolve it tonight, just to acknowledge that you have been holding it. That the holding itself is a form of faithfulness most people never name. You have wound thread before, more times than you are giving yourself credit for. There have been moments, many of them, when you knew something before you could prove it. When the body was already moving in the right direction before the mind had signed off on the plan. And you followed it. And it was right. Not every time. Not with perfection. But with the percentage that quiet knowing carries when it is allowed to move without interference. That record exists. You have it. It is in the body somewhere. The accumulated evidence of the times you trusted yourself, and it was correct. The doubt has been louder. The doubt has taken up more space. But the record is there. The thread moved. Ariadne felt it. A small, steady tension. A tug. The thread communicating in the only language available to it. Pull and give. Tension and ease. She calibrated her hold without thinking. A little more when the tension slackened. Steady when it pulled hard. She found the rhythm of it the way you find the rhythm of breathing. Not by deciding, just by allowing. This was the thing she had never been able to explain. Not that she knew how the labyrinth was built. Not that she knew where the center was. Not that she had mapped the corridors or calculated the distances. She knew how to hold the thread. That is a specific kind of knowledge. Not strategic, not analytical. Just, I know how to stay in contact with this thing I am holding. I know when to give and when to hold firm. I know the difference between the thread finding its way and the thread about to break. She had always known things like that. Subtle things. Relational things. The kind of knowledge that does not present well in rooms where evidence is required. She had spent years being told that was not knowledge, that it was feeling, not fact, that she needed to be more certain, more systematic, more defensible in her conclusions. And she had tried. She had made the lists. She had consulted and reconsidered and revised. And she had still, every time, come back to what the thread had told her first. Standing at the entrance of the labyrinth, in the dark, with the thread in her hand, she was done arguing with it. The salt wind moved through the corridor. The stone held what warmth remained. The thread held. And Ariadne, for the first time in a long time, held herself the same way. Steadily. Without argument. Without requiring proof before the morning came. Without asking herself one more time whether the thing she knew was really knowing or only wanting. It was knowing. It had always been knowing. She was simply done asking the question. Above her, in the stone archway, the owl opened its wings. Not startled, not fleeing, released. The way a witness releases when the thing it was waiting to see has finally happened. It flew south, toward the sea, toward the first light that was still hours away but already decided. And Ariadne watched it go, and understood for the first time that she had never been arguing alone. Something had been watching her know the whole time. Something ancient. Something that already understood what she was only now catching up to. The thread was always the right length. He came back, the thread pulling steadily toward the entrance in the hours before dawn. She felt the change in tension before she heard anything. The thread knew. She thought, standing there, watching the thread come back. The thread she had wound in the dark with no guarantee. She thought, this is what trust actually costs. Not certainty, not proof, not the removal of all risk, just the willingness to hold on, even in the dark, even when the doubt comes, even when the arguments against are loud and the arguments for are quiet. The knowledge that arrives before the evidence is still knowledge. The hands that wind the thread know what they are doing. Later, long after this night, long after this island, Ariadne would carry the thread with her. Not literally. There was no literal thread. But the knowledge that she had wound it correctly, that she had held it correctly, that the thing she had trusted, the quiet, early, pre-argument knowing, had been trustworthy. That knowledge went with her into every other dark corridor, into every other decision made without a guarantee, into every other midnight when the first thing arrived and the second guessing came right behind it. She had the record now. The labyrinth night. The thread that held. You have a record too, divine soul. You may not be calling it that. You may be calling it luck, or coincidence, or things just worked out. But somewhere in the body, the record is kept. The times you knew before you could prove it. The times you followed the quiet thing instead of the loud thing. The times the thread held. That record does not expire. It does not become less true because the doubt has been loud lately. It is there, patient, waiting for you to come back to it. The island went quiet, the way sacred places go quiet when the sacred work is done. Not empty, complete. The stone still warm. The salt wind still moving through the open corridor. The moon a little lower now. The dark a little softer. Ariadne wound the thread slowly back into her hand. Deliberate. Unhurried. Not finished with knowing. She would never be finished with knowing, but done arguing with it. For tonight, done arguing with it. Let me bring you somewhere simple now. Not the island, not the corridor, not the labyrinth entrance or the cold stone wall, or the thread wound around a wrist in the dark. Just your room. This room. This dark. This bed that has been holding you the whole time the story moved. The bed is solid beneath you, divine soul. The way island stone is solid. Ancient, reliable, not requiring your belief to keep holding you, not asking anything of you in exchange for the holding, just here, beneath you, the way the ground is always beneath you, even when you forget it is there. Feel the weight of your body now, the full weight of it, not the performing weight, not the held together weight, the actual weight, the heaviness of a body that has been working since morning and is now finally allowed to put itself down. The shoulders, heavy, released. Let them fall the last small distance they have been holding themselves up. The hips, wide and settled into the mattress. The weight of them is not a problem tonight. It is evidence. Evidence that you are here, that you are real, that this body has been carrying you through every corridor, every question, every long minute of holding without confirmation. And it is still here, still warm, still breathing. The hands, open now. They have been slightly gripped all day. A low-level readiness, a subtle holding on. The kind of grip you don't notice until you are finally allowed to release it, and you feel the ache of muscles that have been braced since before breakfast. Let them open, fully open, palms facing up. Nothing to hold tonight, nothing to carry. The thread can rest in open hands just as well as closed ones. Better, even. Open hands do not strangle what they are keeping. The jaw, soft. The hinge of it releasing. The teeth unclenching. You may not have known they were clenched. They often are. The jaw carries what the mouth doesn't say, and there has been much the mouth has not said today. Let it go now. There is no one here to perform for. No official story required. Just the jaw, soft in the dark. The throat, easy. The space behind the eyes, which have been working since morning, tracking and reading and interpreting. They can close now. Let them close. Let the darkness behind the eyelids be a kindness rather than an absence. The thing you have been second guessing, you probably already know. Not in a way that can be argued tonight. Not in a way that is fully formed or defensible or ready to be presented to anyone who requires evidence, but in the body way, the first arrival way, the way that comes before the counter-arguments have had time to gather, the way that arrived quietly, without fanfare, before you had a chance to talk it out of the room. That knowing does not need to be acted on tonight. It does not need to be confirmed tonight. It only needs to be allowed to exist without being dismantled, without being interrogated into silence, without being asked one more time to prove itself before morning. Just held. The way Ariadne held the thread. Lightly, with open hands. Present without gripping. You have wound the thread correctly more times than you remember. The knowing in your hands is real. The thread is the right length. It has always been the right length. The ceiling above you, dark, or nearly dark. The familiar geography of your room settling into its night version of itself. The shapes you know by heart going soft at the edges. The way all things go soft when the body is finally releasing what it has been holding. The sounds of the house, or the building, or the night outside the window. Whatever they are, let them be. The sound of ordinary life continuing without requiring your management. The world is not waiting for you to solve it tonight. It will still be there in the morning. It has its own momentum, its own thread, its own knowing. You are allowed to stop holding it for the next few hours. You are not required to have it figured out right now. The thread will still be there in the morning. The knowing will still be there in the morning. You don't have to grip it tonight. You can let it rest in your open hands while you sleep. It will not go anywhere. The real things never go anywhere. They wait, patient as island stone, warm long after the sun has set. Your breath is slower now. You may have noticed it, or you may have passed beyond noticing into simply breathing. Either way, the breath knows what it is doing. It has always known. It did not require your instruction to keep moving through the night. It will carry you through every hour between now and morning without asking anything in return. Just let it. Just let it move you the way thread moves through open hands. Not gripped, just held. Somewhere across time, on an island that still holds the warmth of every woman who ever stood at its edge and chose to trust what she knew, Ariadne is winding her thread home. She is not announcing what she did. She does not need to. She knows what she knows. And the owl is somewhere to the south over the water, keeping its ancient watch. Not because it is required to, because that is what the oldest things do. They watch. They witness. they remain. And tonight, Divine Soul, so do you. You remain in your knowing, in your body, in this bed that has been holding you the whole time the story moved. Long silence between each line. Repeat gently, not as instruction, but as returning. These are the lines she falls asleep inside. The thread I wound is the right length. My knowing has not gone anywhere. What I know in the dark is real. I can hold the thread without gripping. The thread I wound is the right length. The story becomes stone now, becomes salt wind, becomes the low, warm resonance of something ancient and solid and completely indifferent to your doubt. Ariadne remains on the island, her thread wound home, keeping watch, not anxious, just present, the way all the real things are present, quietly, without making a case for themselves. May your thread hold tonight exactly as long as it needs to. May your knowing rest in your open hands. May the dark be a place of returning, not of losing. You don't have to figure anything out now. The stone is holding you. The thread is yours. Your knowing has not gone anywhere. Sleep now, Divine Soul. You are held by what has always known the way. Held. Held. Home. Rest here as long as you need. The story has done its work. You don't have to hold it. You can let it go the way you let a breath go, completely, without watching where it goes. Soul Signal will be here when you return. There are more stories waiting, more nights like this one. Until then, may you dream in light. May you wake in grace. And may you always know you are the signal.